Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. You're listening to the voice of Reynor Boram. I'm one of the coaches and consultants for MCA Training International. Before we get started, I would just like to ask you guys to please keep your microphones on mute as well as your videos turned off, just to keep from any distractions as we go through the presentation. It's my privilege now to introduce to you our presenter for today, and that is Dave Boram. Dave is the CEO and founder of the MCA Resources Group, an adaptive leadership consultant, a life and business coach for executives, a professional speaker, and the author of the books Up Where You Belong and Have, Do, Be Anything You Want. We are very privileged and grateful to have Dave to give us this presentation of leading during the COVID-19 crisis, and we are really look forward to taking you through this presentation. So without any further ado, time over to you, Dave.
Hi everyone, it's nice to be with you wherever you might be. I look forward to sharing some important information regarding leadership, and especially during this time of crisis, and a crisis that I don't think many of us have ever experienced in our lives before. So for many executives as well as leaders, this coronavirus pandemic is unlike any other in recent times. I didn't live through obviously the Black Plague or the two world wars and so on, but this crisis has really taken everybody by surprise and also caused tremendous concerns for people around the world. The coronavirus pandemic has placed extraordinary demands on our leaders, both in business and in many other institutions. The humanitarian toll taken by this COVID-19 obviously is creating fear among employees and other stakeholders, resulting in a high degree of uncertainty that gives rise to disorientation, a feeling of lost control, and a strong emotional disturbance. These are the things that so many of our leaders are now having to deal with. So once leaders recognize that this crisis as it is can begin to mount a tremendous response to it. And this is what I think is happening around the world. There are many responses that are being created by leaders around the world, and we're going to be talking today about what we can do and how we can manage those responses as we deal with this particular crisis. We must remember, however, that we cannot manage this crisis like we do routine emergencies. When we deal with routine emergencies as leaders, we normally have a standard procedure policy in place, and we handle those particular policies in terms of those standard procedures. This type of crisis requires a very different approach. During a crisis which is ruled by unfamiliarity and uncertainty, effective responses are largely improvised. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is that tremendous thinking needs to go into how we deal with this. We need to change that thinking. We need to change the way we do things. And the way we do things today might be very different to the way we do things tomorrow. You tend to find that this crisis, as you all know, is extremely fluid. Things are changing on a daily basis. And therefore, it requires a very different approach to that and a very different mindset. This might include different policies, etc. Many of you as leaders are already working on instituting work from home policies, as well as adjusting online or ongoing business practices, such as adopting of new tools to aid in the collaboration of this remote work that's going on, which can be beneficial to maintain even once this crisis is over. So all these policies that we're putting into place now, we could possibly use as we move on from the crisis. What leaders need during a crisis is not a predefined response plan, but behaviors and mindsets that will prevent them from overreacting to yesterday's developments and help them look ahead. What we find with so many leaders throughout the world is that when we go into a crisis mode, we typically go into a firefighting process. I'm happy to say that as I've looked at how people have been handling this, most people are handling it in a very mature and in a very rational way. And it's great to see that from a leadership perspective. I think going back and paraphrasing the great scientist Albert Einstein, who said, the thinking that created the problem is not the same kind of thinking required to solve the problems. Therefore, we need a very, very different type of thinking. And I'm going to share with you today some of the things that I believe we need to be looking at as leaders. These top-down approaches of leadership that worked maybe 20, 30 years ago are so archaic. And when we're dealing with an unpredictable crisis, you need to have collaboration. You need to have a network of teams working together towards this common purpose. Today, the world pretty much has a common purpose, and that is to defeat the crisis. And that's united a lot of people and a lot of countries instead of dividing us. And so there are many positive things that are coming out of this as well, not just the negative things. The negative things are challenges that we have that we need to deal with, that we need to adapt to, and that's leadership. And that's why we're going to find that character leadership is going to be paramount to dealing with a crisis like this. So a network of teams consists of a highly adaptable assembly of groups which are united by a common purpose and work together in much the same way that the individuals on a single team would collaborate. I'll never forget a good friend of mine who used to be the managing director of Ecobank in Liberia, Kula Ndaleka. He told me how they dealt with the Ebola crisis that happened in the West African region, and especially in Liberia. And what he did is he organized his bank into different teams to handle different areas of the crisis. He didn't lose one member or one employee in his bank. And they helped to save the lives of many, many people in that particular country because they collaborated effectively, not only within the bank, but also with the other service providers and emergency service providers in that area. So during a crisis, a network of teams carries out responses outside of normal operations, as well as adjustments to routine business activities. So yes, the business needs to go on. We need to work on that business, but we also need to develop teams that are able to handle the crisis more effectively as a unit. Leaders, therefore, should foster collaboration and transparency across the network of teams. This is really important, and it's something that I'm going to be speaking about a little bit as we go through the workshop together, this webinar. One way they can do this is by distributing authority and sharing information, not trying to hold the authority for themselves, giving people authority to make decisions within these teams so that they don't have to keep on coming back to the CEO or to the leader to get permission to do something, that they know what the authority is and how they can do that, and then they need to share that information effectively. Another crucial part of the leader's role, especially in the emotional, tense environment that characterizes the crisis that we're dealing with, is promoting what we call psychological safety, so that people can openly discuss ideas, questions, and concerns without fear of repercussions. This allows the network of teams to make sense of the situation and how to actually deal with it through healthy debate. And healthy debate is so important. It's what we call healthy conflict. It's so important to bring about an effective collaboration and commitment as to how we're going to tackle the particular crisis that we're dealing with. So what I want to do is I want to share with you a couple of points. First of all, as leaders, we need to be elevating leaders during a crisis. What do I mean by that? Well, senior leaders must make sure that they empower the right people to make crisis response decisions across the network of teams. They must. They cannot try and make all these decisions on their own. In a crisis, you cannot do that. That top-down approach does not work in a crisis that is fluid like the one we're having to deal with at the present moment. In routine emergencies, experience is perhaps the most valuable quality that leaders bring. But when we're dealing with a novel landscape crisis character is of the utmost importance. And we're going to see leaders tested like they've never, ever been tested before. And this is where true character will come to the fore as we deal with this crisis effectively. It's been wonderful to see in our country, South Africa, how our President Cyril Ramaphosa, has actually dealt with this crisis. He's really shown phenomenal leadership in the way him and his team have handled it. And many of the things, the information that I'm sharing with you, they're actually practicing as a team. And it's really impressive to see how they're working effectively together. The second is to value deliberate calm and optimism. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, another important quality is optimism, or what we call confidence combined with realism. You know, there's too much negativity going around. People get bombarded with the negative impact, the hype that goes on through the media. Always remember that media houses have to sell their newspapers or their online articles, etc., etc. They want the sensationalism. They want to create the fear. They want to create the panic. Don't get involved with that. The minute we go into the panic process, we've lost the ability to be real about it. And therefore, it's important that we stay optimistic. There are so many positive things that can come out of this crisis. And there are many positive things that are busy coming out of this crisis. In practice, what it means is frequently stopping, pausing from crisis management. What happens when people go into crisis management? They start fighting fires. So we need to stop. We need to reflect. We need to assess the situation that we're in from multiple vantage points. And then we need to anticipate what will happen next. And part of anticipating is being able to stop and assess. So often people are so busy being busy that they never really stop and assess a situation before moving ahead to the next point. And when we stop, we assess, we look at where we are, what we're doing, what effect our actions are having. Now we can decide, are we on the right path or do we need to change? Do we need to adapt? Are there things we've learned from the actions that we've been implementing, etc.? This is really an important part of leadership. The third thing I want to talk about is what we call demonstrating empathy. In other words, dealing with a human tragedy as a first priority. It's wonderful to see how so many organizations have stopped taking the focus of the bottom line and are starting to focus on the lives of people. In this landscape scale crisis, people's minds turn first to their own survival and other basic needs. In other words, will I be sick or will I get hurt? Will my family? What happens then? Who's going to care for us? Etc., etc. These are real concerns that people have. And if people don't have these concerns addressed effectively, it causes unbelievable panic and fear and therefore irrational behavior. Leaders shouldn't assign communications or legal staff, should assign communications or legal staff to address these questions. In other words, what we need people who really understand people who can deal with this particular crisis, who really understand and empathize with people to answer the kind of questions that we need answered during this crisis. A crisis is when it is most important for leaders to uphold the vital aspect of their role, and that is making a positive difference in people's lives. This is when people are going to see how well we perform as leaders, how we deal effectively with helping people and assisting people through this crisis. Doing this requires leaders to acknowledge the personal and professional challenges that employees and their loved ones are experiencing during this crisis. Not to rub it off, but to really understand that people are extremely concerned by the issues that they're dealing with. And we need to understand that. It's so important. Also, you need to also realize that you need to open yourselves up as leaders. And you need to also realize that your own well-being is extremely important. I think it's a really important aspect of leadership to show vulnerability. Not to look at the ego and try and protect the ego in an issue, in a situation like this, but to genuinely show your vulnerability, to realize that you don't know everything, that you can't know everything. And that's why you need these teams, and you need these teams to collaborate effectively. One of the challenges we have as coaches is when we're working with executives, is very few executives can actually show that vulnerability. And they don't want to show it because they think that people are going to think they're weak. One of the great aspects of effective leaders, character-based leadership, is they're prepared to show vulnerability. Number 4, communicate effectively. In other words, maintain transparency and provide frequent updates. Transparency is job number 1 for leaders in a crisis. Be clear about what you know, what you don't know, and what you're doing to learn more. Last night, our president, again, updated the country on the status quo of the virus and on how we're dealing with it. And these are important. They're extremely important. Thoughtful, frequent communication. It shows that leaders are following the situation and adjusting their responses to that situation as they start to learn more. So, just a few more points. Update intelligence on a daily basis. Make sure that you're communicating. Beware of the hype. As you absorb the latest news, think critically about the source of the information before you act on it. There's so much hype, there's so much false and fake news going on through social media and even in mainstream media. So be very careful about that. Don't assume that information creates awareness. Just because you've communicated something doesn't mean people are aware of it. We still have many people in our country who feel that this is a white man's disease, that they can't get sick from this disease. We need to understand that we need to keep on communicating, keep on helping people to become aware of the situation. Use experts and forecasts carefully. Each epidemic is unpredictable and unique, and we are still learning about the critical features of this coronavirus. So it's really important that we listen carefully. Don't just accept everything we hear, but to listen carefully and to make what we call rational judgments. Constantly reframe your own understanding of what is happening. Learn about it. Be up to date with it. Understand it. Beware of bureaucracy. Don't try and hoard this decision-making process to yourself as a leader. Make sure that you've empowered other people, the right kind of people, to make the decisions that are required to deal with this particular pandemic. Make sure your response is balanced across these 6 dimensions, namely communications, your employees' needs, your travel policies, your remote work from home policies, your supply chain stabilization, and then being part of the broader solution. It's important to understand that. Prepare now for the next crisis, because there will be one. Bill Gates spoke about this crisis 10 years ago when he said that the next big death rate will be caused by some sort of pandemic, not by wars, but by some sort of pandemic virus. Reflect on what you've learned. It's so important. Reflect. Think about the things that you're learning about this pandemic. Prepare for a changed world, because we certainly are going to be going into a changed world. Yes, people will go back to their normal habits, etc., but things are going to change. They're going to change economically. They're going to change in terms of the way we focus about the world and the environment and what we're doing to the world and what we're doing to the environment and what we're doing to each other. Leaders need to wake up. They really and truly need to wake up. This greed and this desire to get more and more and more at the cost of people has got to stop. It's got to stop. So just to conclude our webinar today, I want to assure you that we will get through this crisis. We are in a resilient species. We have dealt with many types of crises in the world, possibly not anything like we're facing at the present moment, except maybe for the Black Plague and for the 2 world wars. But we will get through this. Every single crisis has brought about growth and development. There is life after this COVID-19. So don't worry, there is life. And if you respond to it effectively, your life can be great and will be great. Use this time to grow and develop yourself. Get onto online programs. Read, learn, develop, get your goals in place, and really make it a process, okay? Sorry, let me just get rid of this thing here. Next, become a better version of you. Keep the spark burning within yourself. Inspire others. Practice the attitude of gratitude. Write down things that you're grateful for every single day. Commit to the difference that you really want to make in the world. Refine your purpose. Why are you on this planet? So this coronavirus pandemic is testing the leaders of companies and organizations in every sector around the world. Its consequences could last for longer and present greater difficulties than anyone has anticipated. The prolonged uncertainty is all the more reason for leaders to embrace the practices that I've shared with you in this webinar. Those who do will help establish or reinforce behaviors and values that can support their organizations and communities during this crisis, however long it continues, and prepare them well for the next large-scale challenge. Those of you who would like to look at the MCA Executive Club and joining the MCA Executive Club, where you will receive leadership and training and development through online platforms. You'll have access to monthly live webinars and trainings. You'll have access to online leadership training courses, etc., etc. Please just leave us your email address and we will get back to you. If you have any questions or answers, or questions, hopefully we can give you the answers, please just let us know.
Yes, thank you so much, Dave. We really appreciate that. That was something I think that we all needed to hear. As Dave has mentioned, if you have any questions, you will see at the bottom of your screen there is a chat icon. If you click on that chat icon, you're welcome to type out questions there, and then Dave will address those questions now. So if you have any questions, just type those questions there. Also, if you would like to receive the recording of this webinar, or if you would like to receive more information on the MCA Executive Club, please enter your email address in that chat box as well. So please, any questions, go ahead and type that out now. Hi, Jennifer, thanks for that. We will definitely get the recording to you. That's no problem at all. We will make sure that you get the recording so that you can take a look at it again. Okay, so we have a question from Rohan, Dave. He says, employees need confidence that business will not go blindly into cost-cutting mode. This is critical to ensure we carry business as is and explore new ways of doing things. So he just wants to know your thoughts on that.
Is that from Roland?
From Rohan. It says Rohan.
Rohan, yeah. Rohan, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's really, really essential that business is going to have to adapt to the situation. And as I agree with you, we've got to make sure that we keep jobs, that we keep business going, and make sure that we're leading properly. We might need to take the focus more off the bottom line during this crisis and post the crisis, and focus more on how we get back to mobilizing our people, motivating our people, exciting our people. And I think the more that we focus on our people and the people issues, the more motivated people will be to work harder to change whatever the situation might be. And so I think it's extremely important that we don't start cutting costs, cutting jobs, etc., etc. We need to grow and develop the people.
Thanks, Dave. Rowan says thank you as well. We appreciate that. I'm sure you answered his question quite well there. Yes, Siyabonga, I think we can get that to you, no problem. If you wouldn't mind just typing out your email address in the chat box so that I can get that sent to you. Hi, Nadim. Yes, we'll make sure that you get it as well. Thanks for sending through your email. Okay, yes, Siyabonga, I've got your email address there. Thanks so much. Make sure you get that. Any other questions, guys, before we sign off? Now is your chance. We've got a question from Alfred, Dave. He says he wants to ask, what leadership attributes should each person exhibit as we navigate this difficult time? I think that's an excellent question.
Yeah, Alfred, very good question. Thank you. I think, first of all, honesty is absolutely paramount, brutal honesty. I know you've heard me say this many times before, but brutal honesty is extremely important in a time like this. And so we need to be honest, we need to be transparent, we need to be courageous, we need to be bold, we need to be empathetic, we need to be caring, we need to be understanding, we need to be sensible. In other words, we need to be rational in the way we deal with this. We also need to not get emotionally involved in terms of fear and driving fear. We need to be very, very straightforward in the manner that we speak with people and honest with people. And I think that this all comes back to that character-based leadership that I mentioned during the webinar, that today we're going to see more than ever the kind of leaders who exercise character. We've got to stop playing the political games. We've got to stop playing the games that people play within the workplace and within politics and so on. One of the beauties that I've seen here in South Africa is how the opposition parties have also come together. But this is what happens when we work together in a common purpose, where we bring our differences and so on and so forth, we let them go and we focus together on working towards a common purpose. And I think that as leaders stop playing the games and start becoming more transparent and more honest. And I believe as well, Alfred, that post the crisis, we're going to see a lot of leaders changing their leadership styles because they're going to have to. Otherwise, they're really going to be redundant as leaders. It's more about understanding the people, motivating the people, caring for the people, understanding the idiosyncrasies of people, and helping those people to work in the organizations towards that common purpose as well.
Thanks, Dave. Alfred, I hope that answers your question. We've got another two questions from Nadim, Dave. He says, the first one is, how can we deal effectively with staff anxiety during the crisis? And also, what can we tell them to keep positive, calm, confident, and focused?
Well, Nadim, thank you. I think, again, when you're dealing with people who are driven by fear, I think it's really important that we get people to focus on the positive things. There are many positive things that are coming out of this virus. First of all, I think that one of the positive things is to see how the environment is starting to clean itself up, which is really important. We're also starting to see, as I said earlier on, how people are focusing more on or leaders, I should say, are focusing more on the welfare of people now. People's lives do matter. They really do matter. And so we're forgetting in a lot of organizations about the bottom line at this particular time and focusing more on the welfare of people. And I think that as a leader, if you don't show the anxiety, if you are calm and if you are focused and if you have a plan in place, which is a fluid plan because we discussed that early on, but if you have as a leader a plan in place and you can assure your people that we will get through the crisis, that we are working towards getting through this crisis and together do something about it. Bring people in, get their opinions, get their ideas, get them involved in decision making if necessary, but help them to realize that they're also making a difference in a crisis like this. When you get people to stop taking the focus of themselves and to start focusing on something that's bigger than them, it's amazing how the anxiety and the fear starts to, move away. So it's important that we have people that are working towards something. And if you as the leader can help people together to identify what that is, I can promise you it'll help tremendously.
Thanks, Dave. Nadima said, excellent. Thank you for that. And he says thank you as well. There's another question from Ryan. I hope I'm saying your name correctly, Ryan. He says, do you personally think that teams that had a top-down approach in office will be able to cope with this change? Do you think it is too late for them to change, experiment, and deliver?
Well, Ryan, that's an excellent question again. Thank you. It's never ever too late to change. Never. And I think, as I said to you during the webinar, it's not about change, it's about changing the mindset. And I think that if these leaders continue to practice this top-down approach, you're going to battle. We're going to really, really battle, especially in this kind of situation now, where we need collaboration more than ever before. So a top-down approach is not going to work. It cannot work. We need collaboration. That means we really don't have a choice. We have to change. If we have team leaders who are not prepared to change, I promise you they won't be in that leadership position for too much longer. So we have to adapt. And part of life is learning to change. That's what change is all about. It's actually changing. But it's changing that mindset. It's letting go of wanting to control everything and sharing that with the people, with the team. Because your idea might be far more powerful than my idea, but your idea might stimulate an idea within me or within the next team player, etc., etc. And that's what collaboration is all about. So that at the end of the day, the team can come up with the best plan to deal with the situation as it is now. Tomorrow it might be different and we might have to have another plan. And this is exactly what leadership is required to do in a time of crisis like this. That's why I said earlier on as well, that crises like this can make a huge difference in the way we do things moving forward. And I honestly and truly believe that if there are leaders that carry on in this autocratic top-down approach, which we've been teaching against for a long, long time, but if they carry on doing that, they won't be in those leadership positions for too much longer.
Thanks, Dave. We have one more question from Jennifer. I think this is the last question that we will take just due to time. She has asked, do you know of any good resources at this time where one can draw motivation or innovative ideas from?
Well, Jennifer, we've mentioned the MCA Executive Club. So please look at that, MCA Executive Club. It's a club where you'll have access to lots of online training programs, leadership insights from leaders all around the world, motivational insights, webinars, virtual classrooms, etc., etc. There are extremely good books that one can read, that one can get involved in, TED Talks, going on to TED and talks and listening to some really excellent talks on TED Talk, YouTube, where there's also a lot of rubbish. I agree with you on YouTube, but there's some really good things that are there. And if we get involved in this motivational and listening to positive information and move away from the hype that the media is trying to create and the fear that the media is trying to create, it has a huge impact on your state of mind. So a good question, Jennifer. Thanks for asking.
Thanks, Dave. And thank you, everyone, for those wonderful questions and for joining us today. We really appreciate it. We hope that you've enjoyed it, that it has helped you just gain some further insight, especially at this time. We are grateful to all of you for attending with us. Again, if you haven't put down your email address, I've taken down those emails that have been sent to us. If you have any further questions, you're welcome to email us at the email address of info@mcatraininginternational.com, as well as if you would like some more information on the MCA Executive Club, we will make sure that you get those. So thank you very much, everyone. We appreciate your time. We hope you've enjoyed the webinar and the time with us. Thank you, Dave, once again for this wonderful presentation. I think it was much needed and couldn't have come at a better time for us. And we take this inspiration and this information with us, and I'm sure it will help us as we move forward into this new time for us here on Earth. And thank you so much. So thank you, everyone. We appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of your days further, and please take care and stay safe. Bye-bye.